I never expected things to turn out this way. After all, we were supposed to have learned from our past mistakes. But when I returned home from a long-term business trip overseas, the betrayal hit me like a storm. It wasn't just Tyler's infidelity that cut deep. It was how he had woven an intricate web of lies, dragging others into our mess. Let me back up for a moment. My name is Wendy. I'm 36 years old, and I work a typical 9-to-5 job. I've been married twice. The first marriage ended in a messy divorce. My ex-husband and I argued constantly, and there came a point when it was clear we weren't growing together anymore. We split, and while I had no children from that marriage, the divorce left its mark on me. I was determined to be more careful the second time around. A couple of years after the divorce, I met Tyler at work. He too was divorced, which gave us a lot in common from the start. He seemed like a breath of fresh air, kind, understanding, and someone who knew what it meant to go through a failed marriage. We clicked right away. Within a year, we were married. At the time, I truly believed I had found my second chance at happiness. For the first few months, everything seemed perfect. We shared responsibilities, talked about our future, and even discussed how we would make sure to avoid the mistakes we had made in our previous marriages. I kept my job, unlike the first time when I had been a full-time housewife, and we promised to share the household chores. But promises have a funny way of fading. It didn't take long before things began to unravel. Tyler, who had initially been eager to help around the house, gradually withdrew from any responsibilities. At first, he would just make excuses, saying he was too tired from work to help with cooking or cleaning. But over time, his involvement dwindled to almost nothing. The most he ever did was take out the trash, and even that was rare. I felt the weight of the marriage pressing down on me. I was working full-time, yet when I came home, I was expected to cook, clean, and take care of everything. I tried talking to him about it, but each conversation went the same way. He would apologize and promise to do better, but nothing ever changed. One evening, I sat him down and laid out all my frustrations. I had reached my breaking point. We agreed to share the responsibilities, Tyler. But I'm doing everything on my own. It's exhausting, and it's not fair. I'll never forget his response. He leaned back, crossed his arms, and after a long pause, he said, "Isn't it usually the woman's job to take care of the house?" I was stunned. He had never shown any signs of such old-fashioned thinking before. "Are you serious?" I asked, but deep down, I knew he was. He went on to explain that during his previous marriage, his wife had also worked but had taken on all the household duties. Naturally, he assumed I would do the same. That conversation changed everything for me. I began to see him in a different light. His excuses for not helping around the house were more than just laziness. They revealed a deeper problem. I tried to be patient, hoping he would change, but nothing improved. If anything, things got worse. A few months later, my company offered me the chance to go on a long-term business trip overseas. It was a big opportunity, and when I mentioned it to Tyler, he encouraged me to go. "It'll be good for you," he said. "A change of scenery might help." At the time, I thought he was being supportive, but looking back now, I realize he just wanted me out of the way. I left for the business trip, and for a while, I managed to put the troubles of our marriage out of my mind. Work kept me busy, and being in a new environment helped me gain some much-needed perspective. However, the peace didn't last long. 3 months into the trip, I received an unexpected call from my best friend back home. "Wendy, I don't know how to tell you this, but I saw Tyler at a restaurant, and he wasn't alone." My heart sank as she described the scene. Tyler was with another woman, and it was clear they were more than just friends. I felt the ground beneath me shift. Was this really happening? I had always suspected something was wrong, but I never imagined he would betray me like this. I booked the first flight home, determined to confront him. When I arrived back at the apartment, it was dark, and everything seemed quiet. I let myself in, and to my surprise, found Tyler sitting on the couch with a woman. They were huddled together, whispering. When they saw me, they both jumped up, startled. "Wendy, you're back." Tyler said, his voice shaky. The woman looked terrified, quickly gathering her things and rushing out the door. I stood there frozen, unable to believe what I was seeing. "We need to talk," I said, my voice steady despite the storm raging inside me. Tyler began to stammer an apology, admitting to the affair. He told me it had started shortly after I left for the business trip. At first, it was just a fling, but it had turned into something more. I listened in silence, recording his confession on my phone, knowing I might need it later. I didn't want to hear anymore. I told him to leave. "I'll think about whether or not we can work this out, but for now I need space," I said firmly. Tyler begged for forgiveness, promising to change, to make things right. But I had heard those promises before, and they meant nothing now. A week later, I decided to take another business trip to clear my head. I told Tyler to leave while I was gone, to give me time to think. He agreed, but not without pleading for one last chance. I didn't respond. I just needed to get away. When I returned from the trip a few months later, the apartment wasn't empty like I had expected. Instead, I walked in to find Tyler's mother and sister-in-law casually sitting in my living room. My shock quickly turned to anger as I realized what had happened. Tyler had let them move in while I was gone, without even asking me. "What are you doing here?" I demanded. His mother looked up, startled, and said, "Oh, Wendy, it's so good to see you. Thank you for letting us stay here. You've been such a big help, paying the rent and all." I was speechless. They had no idea about the affair, about the lies Tyler had been telling. They believed I was still happily married to him and had willingly offered them a place to stay. That's when it hit me. Tyler had lied to them too. But what was worse was what came next. His mother, in her usual oblivious manner, said, "Tyler told us about your mistake. I know it's hard, but we forgive you. Everyone deserves a second chance." Mistake? What mistake? My blood ran cold as I pieced it together. Tyler had told his family that I had cheated on him. That's why they were here, why they had taken over my apartment. They thought I was the one at fault. It was almost laughable, if it wasn't so infuriating. I didn't know whether to scream or cry. Instead, I calmly told them the truth. I didn't cheat. Tyler did. Their confused faces made it clear that they had no idea what I was talking about. But I was ready. I pulled out my phone and played the recording of Tyler admitting to his affair. The silence that followed was deafening. His mother and sister-in-law were speechless, their mouths hanging open in shock. They had believed his lies so completely that the truth hit them like a freight train. I didn't wait for them to respond. "I think it's time for you to leave," I said, my voice firm but controlled. They didn't argue. The truth was out, and they had no choice but to pack up and go. Tyler's world fell apart after that. His family turned on him, disgusted by his lies. He lost his job shortly after, and without me to support him, he found himself drowning in debt. He tried to reach out to me, to apologize again, but I was done. The marriage was over, and I had already filed for divorce. It wasn't easy moving on, but I knew I had made the right choice. Tyler had shown me who he really was, and there was no going back. I focused on my career, throwing myself into my work. Eventually, I was promoted, and for the first time in a long time, I felt like I was in control of my life again. Tyler's downfall continued. Rumors began to circulate that his affair partner had left him, and he was now spending his days at the casino, trying to escape the mess he had made of his life. His debts piled up, and soon he had nothing left. As for me, I've never felt stronger. The pain of betrayal didn't break me. It made me more resilient. I learned to trust myself, to stand up for what I deserved, and to walk away when I needed to. In the end, Tyler's lies destroyed him, but they set me free. 2 years have passed since that chapter of my life closed. Tyler's family has cut ties with him completely. He's lost everything: his job, his reputation, his home. Meanwhile, I've built a life I'm proud of. I continue to thrive in my career, and I've found joy in the simple things again. Time with friends, new hobbies, and a sense of peace that I hadn't felt in years. Every now and then, I hear about Tyler from mutual acquaintances. Apparently, he spends most of his days wandering around, trying to find a way back to the life he once had. But that door is closed. For good. As for me, I've stopped looking back. The future is wide open, and I'm ready to embrace whatever comes next. Life has a way of testing you, but it also has a way of revealing your strength. And if there's one thing I've learned, it's that no matter how hard things get, you can always come out the other side, stronger, wiser, and more certain of what you deserve.